Hi, and welcome to another episode of SmarketPlace Live. I'm Keith Reynolds, and I'm the founder of Publio. We have this podcast to talk about sales, marketing, and rock and roll. We love to find out what people are thinking about in terms of the latest in their sales and marketing approach. Today, we're focused on sales with Mark Spencer. I'm here with Tom Dempsey, my partner in crime, here in the rock and roll bourbon room. Hey, Tom,
Hey Keith, hopefully you're
how you
doing
doing?
well after a week long of road tripping and concert going and everything else. You've had a big week.
That's That's right. Last Thursday, I was heading out the door from our show to see the Stones in Denver, and uh, today I'm heading out the door to see the Stones in Chicago.
Yes. Well, have a blast. I'll be living through you.
Yeah, yeah. And one day we'll have to tell the story of the Denver show.
That's
But
right.
let's move on. And we have Sarah working the controls, and Sarah, thanks for helping us out. And let's get on and introduce Mark Spencer. Mark, welcome.
Hi, thank you guys very much. I appreciate you having me on today. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Yeah. So we all met on a networking circuit out in Denver, and we've got told some good rock and roll stories. So I'm looking forward to that. But as we get into this, Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work uh, in sales and what you've done with your career. I know you got some interesting things going on.
I do. I'll try to keep it brief too, because as a salesperson, I do love to talk, of course. But I've been I was in healthcare sales for about 25 years. I did that for a long time, fully loved it, the W-2 world. Got to a point in my career where I fully enjoyed that, but wanted to do a little bit more. Where healthcare is a great industry and there's such a need for it, I wanted to expand. So I did hang my own shingle and start my own thing, which is Spencer Sales Solutions. So I do work with any small to medium sized business. I am industry agnostic now for what I do, but I work with these small to medium sized businesses who maybe have a visionary with a great idea, but they don't really have a plan to be able to grow, or they have an incredible product or service, but don't know how to get it out to the public. I step in, work with the organizations, help them from a strategy standpoint. That word very specific. I stole that from Saturday Night Live. So you welcome SNL for stealing strategy from you. Um, and really working with them on a plan to be able to grow their sales, to give them that hockey stick curve that they need to be able to continue with their business model.
Cool. And uh, when you look at sales, what is it that you really motivates you? Because a lot of sales is staying motivated. What really motivates you about sales and what you do?
Well, what got me into it in the first place? I kind of fell backwards into sales. That's a longer story, but I fell into it. What I didn't realize at the time when I first got into the healthcare space is how important that piece was to getting people the level of care that they needed and the level of care they deserved. So that's how I kind of realized the passion that I have for that, and really truly leading with a servant heart. Which when I'm on Zoom or any other medium, I have a banner that runs across the top of my screen that says "Leading with a servant heart," and that's 100% true. I've taken it upon myself to try to make people better at what they do every day from a sales perspective, and with that comes teaching them to do well to be able to help grow the business and grow the organization that they're with at the same time. So leading with a servant heart, spending time with the people to make them better at what they do automatically rolls into higher profits for the organizations they work for.
You excuse me. You mentioned something, Mark, too, um, and you work with, say, visionaries, and
Mhm.
oftentimes they're entrepreneurs. They took over a small company as CEO, or a multitude of other reasons. How do you get buy off from someone who doesn't have a commercial background?
It's very difficult, is the short answer to that, Tom, and I'm sure you know that as well. But it starts off with I do a really quick brief, easy sales agility assessment that I send out to companies. It takes the ownership maybe about 10 minutes to complete, but what it does is it gives them an aggregate score of where they fall from 1 to 100 compared to a couple thousand other companies that have taken this same sales agility assessment. I ask people to be honest as far as where they are on the spectrum of sales goes, and really being truthful with me, because if you're not truthful, I can't help you. It's like going to the doctor and telling them you feel fine when you don't, right? What's the purpose of doing that? You're talking to me for a reason. So tell me exactly what's happening in your business. Tell me where your downfalls are, because nobody's perfect. What I'm going to do is help build on your strengths that I know you're already good at, and I'll also help fix the other pieces that maybe you need a little bit of nudge or a little bit of assistance with that may not be your area of expertise. And I use the word visionary because they have a great vision for the company and the product and service, but don't know how to implement it. And that's where I come
Got you. That makes sense. So when you say that's where you come in, where do
in.
you start? I mean, I got to think that every company, regardless of industry that you're involved in, has different challenges from a sales standpoint. So how do you go about, putting in some sort of infrastructure, or, again, getting buy off from some of the sales reps or the sales managers and that sort of thing. So where do you start?
It starts with a conversation, right? As far as where they are. Because what I want to do is meet the small business owner, founder, president, whatever seat they might sit in, where they are. Where does their revenue sit right now? Because I'm not going to propose a solution that's going to be way out of bounds from what they're bringing in on an annual basis, right? So I have a couple different tiers that I work on. So we start with what the revenue looks like and where they are and what they really think that they need. And then what I do, I have a la carte offerings to be able to help anybody depending on what level they need. Everything from an entry level, one-time AI-driven sales playbook for $55 to $6,000, up to doing a 4 to 6 month engagement to build out a full-blown sales infrastructure build that includes customizing CRMs and making sure they're hiring the right people, is coming up with KPIs. There's a lot that goes into the infrastructure build, but yes, I meet the people where they are and at the price point they need to be at to grow their business.
Got you.
I'm curious, building out that infrastructure. So you do the assessment, you help them build out the team and the infrastructure, and the assessment was based around sales agility. So assuming you've done that work, what does sales agility look like? Like, what's success?
Well, first of all, you'd be surprised about how unagile most of the agencies and companies are. But I mean, that's why they hired me. That's why they're talking to me in the first place, right? So with the agility assessment comes out, okay, we're good in this area. We have a USP. Everybody marches to the beat of the same drummer. That's great. But what does your sales process look like? What does the lead gen to close time look like for your business? And this is the part that makes me industry agnostic, is because I use the same processes if I'm working with a mom and pop company who make widgets out of the mountains in North Carolina, or if I'm dealing with a $70 million SaaS company in the healthcare space. What are the steps? How many days from lead gen to close do you have? What's your current conversion rate? And customizing the tools to be able to offer full transparency to the organization from a sales perspective is what I do best. So I give everybody a true blue look is exactly what's happening within the company from the sales perspective.
So when you have that infrastructure in place and the team, everyone's working off the same data, and you're able to produce those reports that allow you to be agile and adjust.
Exactly. So custom dashboards, absolutely. That goes along with the KPIs that we come up with that I know they're already important to them during the processes of building out their system too. They'll be surprised about what maybe seems to be important to them at the time before they come in, but is not as important once we start diving deeper into what they really need to be able to get the growth that they need. So some of the priorities do change. I take a little bit of pride in that too, pointing out some things that maybe they don't see. I mean, that's why I'm there, right? You already surround yourself with people within your industry that have the industry expertise. Why not bring somebody in with an outside perspective to get their view on what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, also in true fashion, for Keith and I, it's your focus is sales, and we focus on both marketing and sales. And you typically think of branding as a marketing function, and it ultimately probably does fit under that. But sales and marketing have to work together to come up with that, so they both believe in it and know how to sell it, et cetera. So what I'm getting at is, after branding, it's really up to sales to take that value proposition and take it to customers. How do you typically recommend or suggest that one, a company comes up with a great value proposition, and two, that sales knows how to present it and how to best put the foot forward for the company?
Really, really long answer that I'll try to make really, really concise. So marketing and sales are very different. They're two totally different buckets. Unfortunately, most corporations lump us in together, right? They put us in the same bucket that they give us it's and usually they pull from the same budget where the USP is incredibly important, but you have to dive deeper into why was the company founded? Why did you start doing what you're doing? And what was your vision for being different than the other people that already provided the product or service that's already out there? What is that? What is the differentiator? And are you using said differentiator in your unique selling proposition? Does your head of operations, finance, sales team, marketing, HR, do they all march to that same beat of the same drum? And if they don't, why not? Why is that not the focus of the core focus of your business? You have to have a rallying cry or something to be able to work around when you're going to go out to the community and be able to sell your product or service. And to me, it starts with the USP and then it's followed up by, the KPIs and custom dashboards within the sales process itself.
And you bring up a great point, and that is that everybody's on board, not just sales, not just marketing, not just the C-suite, but legal, HR. I mean, everybody's got to really understand what the value proposition of the whole company is, because everybody has their role in representing the company. So that's a great point, Mark.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great companies are on message from the the server room to the boardroom, and everybody's really working together. Um, I want to, check in. I heard you say, sales and marketing are funded out of the same budgets and they're lumped together. That's a bit of a contrarian view. Let's dive in and get your thoughts on that.
I say that from my experiences, both in the healthcare space for the 25 years in the healthcare space and dealing with the clients that I've spoken to over the past couple of years since I hung my own shingle. So a lot of times it's put in the same area. I was like, okay, we have this lump sum, so we need to build out our website. We need to make sure we have the search engine optimization just right. And oh yeah, we need a selling proposition. And oh yeah, we need salespeople and we have to hire the right people and we have to have them saying the right message and we have to start growing, but they really don't know what any of that looks like. I think that people probably have a better, from just a general perspective, people have a better idea what SEO and a website and marketing is than they do what actually goes into building a sales process and procedures out and how that differs from the actual marketing message that's put forward for an organization. That the sales team is inevitably the ones who are held accountable for selling.
Mhm.
So you work with marketing and they have a role, but you're just saying that when it comes to sales, you can't take the direction from marketing on how to do the selling and what the USP is.
I no, I think you can. I think that where are the companies in their process? Is the USP, is it already built? Are they already standing on this is what we're doing? Here's the direction we're taking. This is the model we have. Maybe the visionary, maybe the person who started the company has a marketing background. I have no problem with that. I'm not going to try to change it. That's not the intent, but it's taking what's been built, what we're going to make ourselves, how we're going to originate ourselves within the marketplace, make ourselves different, and here's what we're going to use going forward. And it has to be everybody from, just like you said, from the kitchen to the boardroom, from the people that answer the phones up to the customer service piece to HR to the salespeople in the field. They have to have that same message. And I think that it's the chicken or the egg, whether you create the USP or the marketing language or verbiage prior to actually defining the sales process and what the salespeople think is important. But I think the sales and marketing side should both have input, because if the sales team doesn't buy into what the USP is, it was created by the marketing team, they're simply not going to use it. I mean, it's sad but true. But from the sales perspective, if they don't believe in it and if they don't think it's going to make them money, they're not going to spout the same message.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
good.
as the marketer here, what I find a lot of the gold really lies with the sales team, right? What is it that you talk about, right? What is it that you're sharing from industry? How can we
Mhm.
leverage what's happening, in the field anyways, and make it something that's duplicatable that we can share with other salespeople, right? That to me
Right.
is really a fun part of this is, yeah, getting the salespeople to share what they have and helping them share because we're doing it with the support of marketing.
Exactly right. And I think one thing that I'm definitely going to steal, but I'll give him credit, not in writing, but I'll give him the verbal credit for this is Game of Thrones. One of the things that I remember saying is there's a little 2-minute blurb in one of the episodes in the middle of one season 3 or 4 about the power of a story and how important a story is and how it can get across your message and how people will so gravitate towards somebody telling a story about a product or service wrapped around the company or whatever the salespeople are out talking about versus reading a list of bullet points. Coming from the healthcare space. So we have the best staff, we have the best nurses, they care the most. Our aides are the best. They'll be there when they say they're going to be there. No, tell us a story. Tell us something that happened that wrapped around a real life scenario that embodies what you do and why you do it. That goes back to, again, I'll give somebody else credit, Simon Sinek, right? He always started off saying people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's 100% true. So if you use the power of a story scenario and you talk to people about why you do what you do, that's going to put you above, the level of your competition.
Yeah, that's a great point. When it comes to part of what you do as one of your offerings is put in a sales infrastructure or a process in place, something along those lines. And it's always interesting to me that most, excuse me, non-sales functions think of sales, right? That there's no process, there's no infrastructure, you just got a product that you got from marketing and you're headed out to go sell it. And that's what they
Right.
do. But in fact, sales has a great deal of process and has a great deal of infrastructure. So, how do you put that in place in a new company when it currently doesn't exist and they're not used to it?
That's a really good question. The precursor answer I would give to that is there's only two rules to sales. People buy from people they like. People keep buying from people who do what they say they're going to do. Okay, so create relationships and follow through on what you say you're going to do. When I actually build out the processes themselves, it's not difficult, but when people aren't used to following a specific process or being held to a specific process and timelines to that process to get the companies where they need to go, that's where the rub is. But again, when you're talking with salespeople, it's all about, oh, well, if you're going to make me use a CRM tool, this is Big Brother is watching, and you just want me to put these steps in so I can get yelled at if I'm behind on one of my sales. I should be on step 6, and I'm only on step 4. No, it's something to keep you attuned to where you are in the process. Have you done everything within your power to get the people where they need to be able to get this deal across the finish line? Because ultimately, in sales, that's how you're going to get paid, right? I mean, everybody's comp structure is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, you're there to sell a product or service. Are you following the steps you need to do to get that done in a timely fashion?
Yeah.
Yep.
You- you-
And with the tools today, we're a HubSpot shop, and we are a solution provider. They integrate with so many other things that it's how you do your job. You can't, not be online with your CRM um, today, and that's geared towards helping you follow the process. So it's
It's so much
interesting.
easier now, though. It really is. I mean, everything from dial pad apps to when you're sending out an email, the CRM is attached to it with a widget and it automatically updates the file. And then you take the AI component that can actually help you come up with solutions that are tied into the issue that your potential client has buying from you versus what solutions you tried, and using AI to be able to conquer that. That's a whole different webcast itself, just with the AI component within sales. But everything is tied in, and it's really made pretty easy. So at the end of the day, if you don't follow through, you're only hurting yourself from a sales perspective.
Well, I would actually like to devote a question to AI. I really hadn't thought about it with our previous guests. I mean, it's such a big impact. How do you see it unfolding in sales? What are some of the cool applications or things that you're seeing?
Well, I did pull back the curtain a little bit with my last statement, but I'll expand on that a little bit too. So one of the offerings that I have within my belt is an AI-driven sales playbook, right? So this is for a company who wants a guide. Maybe they don't want a full-blown engagement. They don't want a full infrastructure build. It's too much of a headache, but they want something. They want marching orders. So there's a new version of this AI-driven sales playbook that comes out, which is about a 60-page book when it's completed, but it also incorporates into the AI component with the CRM tool. Here's the plan we've created. Here's the differentiators. Here's how we're going to, sell in the marketplace. Here's the communications we've had. Here's been the rebuttal. Here's the time frame between responses from the company, whatever it looks like, and then simply asking the AI tool what direction seems the best to take, so it can actually help direct the sales team in the best possible path, as long as it's only as good as the input that's put in, right? So are you taking the time to put in the good notes? Are you coordinating the efforts with the emails and the phone calls and with your CRM as well? And it spits out such incredible information to make you so effective that there's really almost no excuse for you not being able to push a deal across the finish line. And I say that being a salesperson.
That shows you have a lot of confidence in it, in the
I do.
technology.
I do.
Do you
More to
see
come.
it sort of changing the way that sales is done in the future?
At the end of the day, I'm going to say no, Tom. It's a good question because I still think that, again, it goes back to the two rules of sales. People do business with people they like. They keep doing business with people who do what they say they're going to do, right? Sales is still founded on relationships, and AI can't do that, right?
Yeah,
AI can give you some tips and suggestions on paths to take, right? But they're still not going to talk to you if they don't like you. So the human component in sales is not going to go away. It has to start with, can you create relationships, and are you going to follow through and do what you say you're going to do? One of the best tools to use to make sure you follow through is, well, look at that. How about a CRM? Because it says exactly where you are in the deal, what you said you were going to do, the deliverables and the time frame. So are you living up to what you said? It ties in together.
Mm.
gotcha, gotcha. You touched on something earlier too, and that's how you um, reward salespeople or compensate salespeople, et cetera. And there are so many different ways to slice that, depending on the needs of the customer and the market and the product opportunities and the multitude of products, et cetera. But the fundamentals of incenting salespeople,
Mhm.
how do you create compensation plans that ultimately align with what the company's vision and mission are?
It's an interesting question, and I'm gonna go back to power of a story, which I just mentioned a minute ago. So I was talking to a potential client earlier this week, actually, and they were very proud of themselves that they only had their salespeople. They were 100% commission. So if they didn't sell anything, it didn't cost them anything, and they loved that model. But they're running into some problems. Okay, for example, one of the people in HR said, "Hey, we want to get a couple testimonials for our website. Can you go out to some of the happy customers and clients that we've closed deals with? Can you get some testimonials from them?" And the salespeople went, "Well, no, I don't make any money off that. Why would I do that? There's no skin in the game. There's no compensation for them outside of closing a deal. So why would they do anything that's not directly related to their income?" That's where the balance comes in. Okay, so you have to have, it depends, what behavior do you want, and is the current compensation which you decided on when you launched your company, is that driving the behavior you expect to get to the sales that you need to get to the profitability you want to get to? Okay. And most of the time, the balance is off. Either it's too heavy on base, being like a 90-10. If it's 100% commission, they're not going to do anything that they're not going to get paid to do. So it's finding the balance, and sitting down and finding out what's most important from both an HR perspective, a compliance perspective, but also what your sales team needs and wants for them to be happy in their jobs and be able to grow.
Yeah, that's great.
Fascinating. Well, it's getting close to our favorite time.
All right.
Yes, it is.
So, well, I'm out in Chicago to see the Stones. This is totally a rock and roll conversation here. Tom just got back from Vegas seeing Dead and Company at the Sphere. So we're geared up. Tell us, who's your favorite band? Tell us your rock and roll experience.
Well, mine, I grew up in a very specific area of the country at a very specific time. And I will say this starting out, my favorite band by far is REM. Okay, so I grew up in the Atlanta, Georgia area. my formidable years from when I was 11 until I was 27 or so. And then, still finding my way. I had the Masters of Metal LP I used to play in my room, things like that. And I was a big Van Halen fan. And then I got into Led Zeppelin. But then I started hearing some of the other music that was a little bit more local and some other stuff that I had not heard before. And listening to some of the late night shows on the rock and roll stations, which would play these new progressive style musics that nobody really had a name for yet, that turned out to be alternative. And in my estimation, REM is the band that created alternative music. I happened to be around in the backyard of that band when that happened in the North Georgia area. And, remember first hearing their first EP and falling in love with the song Boxcars. Carnival of Shorts was the first song that I heard by them. And I've loved that ever since. I have the album sitting right over here. For the 25th anniversary EP album that was put out with the big monolith, the green monolith animal on the LP cover. That I look back at and I display proudly within my home. But yeah, I was lucky enough to grow up in the area of the country where alternative music was founded.
Right. Well, you can hear the passion for REM.
100%. But I was so lucky though, because it wasn't just them. When I grew up in that area, and I attended University of Georgia as well, so go Dogs. But I mean, we would see the people from REM, Peter Buck, we'd see him walking around the streets in Athens. They'd be in Normal Town Cafe, having a cup of coffee or a beer. And in the same backyard, the B-52s were there. They were also in Athens at the exact same time. I remember Collective Soul kind of being the up and coming band from that area. And one of my favorites, which I saw a multitude of times, probably too many to count, too many that I don't remember, was seeing Widespread Panic. I saw Widespread at the Georgia Theater. I don't know how many times while I was up in Athens, as well as,
they just opened for the Rolling Stones in Denver. And then they're playing Red Rocks.
They are, and I was looking at going to that too, but I had the opportunity. I was gifted some tickets, so I'm going to a very private, only 1,000 person show to see 311 play on Sunday night this week at I believe it's Cervantes, and I cannot wait for that show. So I'm not going to catch Widespread this time through, but they're here every year for 2 to 3 nights, so I won't miss it next year for sure. But yeah, so this trip through this weekend is going to be dedicated to 311. So I'm very excited about that. I've never seen them.
Awesome.
Well, I am now a Widespread Panic devotee, having seen them. I've heard them. I have them on Spotify, but seeing them live was really terrific.
It is. It's something else too. And yeah, I was so lucky. I mean, imagine being in a town with B-52s, REM, and Widespread Panic when you were in college. I mean, they were just around all the time. It was pretty amazing. I mean, there's some other good bands too. The Grapes, all good. There was some other bands up there as well that are also that just didn't quite make it to the same heights as those three did.
Well, REM, before they became famous, came to Carbondale, Illinois, where I went to school. And after the show, they came over to our house, and we hung out with them till like dark 30 in the morning. And they were just the nicest guys. Like, I was probably
Very, very down to
24.
earth. I mean, just somebody you'd see walking down the street in Athens, like I said, at a coffee shop or sitting there having a beer, and they just jump up on stage and maybe try a new riff for a new song they were writing, and people wouldn't bother them. And it was just that cool environment where everybody knew who they were, but everybody left them alone because they didn't want that to go away. It's like, you don't want to move too fast and scare away the cool little fox you see running through the neighborhood. You want it to come back, right? So it was the same attitude when you saw, REM, or you saw Kate from the B-52s or Fred out walking around in Athens. You just leave them alone. You wouldn't fanboy them and run up to them and talk to them. It was obviously before cell phones, so we didn't have the chance for selfies at that point, which is a good thing.
I do have a concert on Saturday. I forgot to tell you, Keith.
No way.
And my wife bought the tickets, and we're going with a bunch of friends. And at Fiddler's Green, called "I Love the '90s." Now, I will say I did love the '90s, but not that kind of '90s. Put it this way: the headliner is Vanilla Ice.
I saw a concert down in Jacksonville, Florida, when I was at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, the Georgia-Florida football game. It's always on Halloween weekend, and it was the same type of thing. We saw Vanilla Ice with Tone Loc and one or two other performers played after a college baseball exhibition game, and then we sat out there and listened to them for a while, and it was nostalgic. It was really good. See these people age. Maybe they don't hit all the notes they used to hit, but at least they're up there still trying, and it was still very much of a really cool callback, and
Yeah.
fully enjoyed the time watching them play.
All right.
I think it's awesome that you're seeing rock and roll go into this era now where you've got young and up and coming, and then you got the Stones playing in their 80s, right? And and so it's spanning generations. You're seeing families come to, 2 and 3 generations together, and it's a summer pastime now. What shows are you seeing? Where are you going to see shows?
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Yeah, for me this summer so far, the only one I'm going to see in Atlanta is going to be 311, or in Atlanta. In Denver's going to be 311. I'm thinking about going to Atlanta. I have some friends down there that are trying to get me to come down and go see a couple of shows yet. Nothing's written in stone. Nothing's for certain. But yeah, my question is, once I start seeing those bands again, I get the taste, and then I get out there again and want to go see more and just go see more. And finding the ticket availability, the right price structure in Denver, because they can get a little pricey, especially out of Red Rocks, and as I'm sure you two know very, very well. And it's finding the best situation for the best deal. That's why I'm so excited about this small venue for 311 on Sunday night. That's going to be a blast.
Yeah. Good for you. Well, Mark,
Well,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Keith.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much, and Keith and I are the lucky ones because we get to talk to some really fascinating, interesting people on a multitude of topics, and we learn from our guests every single time. So we learned from you, and really appreciate it.
Well, of course, I really appreciate being a guest on here too. And I said, when you're growing up, if you have kids and you're going to see bands in colleges, never assume that they're not going to become anything. My fraternity, another fraternity, and two sororities got together, and we had a private concert. We paid the B-52s to play for us in college at a closed off field at University of Georgia. We
Mm,
just got to, I was, 10 rows from the front, probably 15, 20 feet from Kate while she was up there singing on stage. It was amazing. So take the opportunity, watch the local bands, keep following them. You never know what they'll turn into.
yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
we had a guest on we had a guest on early in Clay Hicks, and I think we were, kind of thinking the show would be, everyone talks about their favorite bands and they're going to be well known. And he had the most excellent answer. Who's your favorite band? He goes, well, I really just like to pull up an armchair and see a local concert.
Mm,
That's a great way to do it too, because you never know what's around. I mean, same thing too. I mean, I'm not a country music fan. I'll fully admit that, but I love going to Nashville and walking in and out of the different bars down there on the
mm,
main streets down there. It's amazing. There's such good musicians and such great talent that it doesn't matter. That's not my favorite genre, but man, I just get blown away by the amount of talent down there, and it is so much fun every time I go to Nashville.
absolutely.
I've not been there in a long time. I got to get back.
Uh,
Yes, you do, sir. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, sharing your thoughts on sales, and I really appreciate how you bring that the assessment together with the using that information to build out the infrastructure, and then working with the team. And that was really an interesting discussion of like how you turn a sales organization around.
Well, and you can't do it unless you have a strong marketing effort too. I understand how strong the marketing arm is to making a small to medium sized business successful. So I appreciate the opportunity to, share the airwaves with you two seasoned professionals, and I look forward to the opportunity of working with you.
all
Well,
right.
thanks for joining us in Publio Studio. And the reason we do this is to show how we can turn podcasting into all kinds of content using AI, using remote teams, and collaborating. So the studio model really fits for sales and marketing today. And we're so glad you could join us.
Well, I'm honored you invited me. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.
All right. Take care, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Take care.
Take care, guys. You have a
Thanks
great
for
day.
joining us, everybody.
My pleasure. Bye bye.